Do you think that you know everything about your teachers? Well, after listening to this podcast, you will find out that you really don't. Welcome to the second ever episode of Teachers Unmasked, and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teachers Unmasked. In this episode, we have one of the most beloved teachers here at Glasgow, and that is none other than Mr. Floyd. Please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joshua Floyd. I am the coding teacher here at Glasgow. I've been here for about 7 years now, so really excited to be here with you, Dorian. Excited to do the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be doing this. So first, let's go back to the past. Can you tell me what you were like as a middle schooler? What did you like? What did you dislike? And what were some of your hobbies?
I was a pretty shy kid, believe it or not. I always did well on things like tests and quizzes. My favorite subjects were always shop class and engineering class. I've always enjoyed building and fixing things. Some of my big hobbies when I was a kid was Legos, building things, and then kind of builds now to even now when I'm not teaching, I actually run a part-time handyman business on the side. So fixing and building things has always been one of my big hobbies.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it seems like a lot of those interests are clearly also interests today with many students. Like when I ask many of my friends what their favorite electives are and classes are, engineering's always up there, and Lego's like a hit toy, always. But it seems like by your interest, you weren't exactly thinking of being a teacher back in middle school. So when did you discover that you wanted to become a teacher?
Yeah, definitely was not something that was really ever on my mind, because I always just assumed I was probably going to either join the military or go learn a trade.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to find my passion for helping others find their greater meaning, reach their full potential, and really help young men and women become the people they were meant to be.
That's really a great reason to come teach the classroom, because what we really want as students is to have teachers that really inspire us to be the best we can be. How did you fall in love with coding?
That's another good question. It's kind of funny that you asked that, because starting out at Glasgow, actually I was a history teacher, graduated with a history degree, but I've always had a passion and enjoyed technology and coding, playing around with that. Kind of goes hand in hand with my hobbies of building and fixing things. My first exposure to coding was my programming teacher in high school, Mr. Thomas, who was one of my favorite teachers ever. And he was also my football coach as well. So you better do well in your coach's class there. You don't want to be running laps for practice. I was teaching history for 3 years at Glasgow, but also in that same time, I was always running the coding after school club. And I just remember Mr. DeRose, who was the old principal here, asked one day if I wanted to get certified in teaching business and IT, which would be the kind of classification you'd have to get certified in to teach things like coding, computer solutions, STEM solutions.
Yeah.
And, because it's always hard to find teachers that know how to code or can do coding, because just with, the mad amount of money you can make with that type of skill, not many are going into teaching. So I really jumped at that, because coding's always been something I've really enjoyed and liked doing as a hobby on the side.
Yeah, that's really creative, and in my opinion, I think that coding can really open many doors in the future. But why do you think coding is important? Like, what difference can having those skills make in our lives?
Yeah, I think it can make a huge difference in our lives there. Biggest part being financially, because there are so many programming jobs out there, but there are so few people with the skills to fill those jobs. And because there's so few people to fill those jobs, those companies are paying a lot of money to individuals to fill those jobs. I think it's a huge opportunity that a lot of people kind of overlook. And unfortunately, sometimes schools also overlook as far as putting an emphasis on that.
Yeah, this is a very, very high demand job for many companies. So I think, coding is a very crucial skill to learn. Aside from the other hobbies you just told me you do, what else do you like to do in your free time?
My wife and I really enjoy hiking. I'm big into woodworking as well. Our dining room table at home I've built a number of my workshop cabinets. and so many other projects around the house. It's just kind of really fulfilling to know that, a sense of accomplishment that you built something that you use so often. My biggest hobby that a lot of people don't know, I'm actually a big hunter since I was a kid. Grew up hunting with my aunt, uncles, friends, and so I still do that every chance I get. Fun fact, most of the food I eat at home, I don't buy from the grocery store. It's actually stuff that I've harvested myself. I know where my food comes from. I know how it was harvested. I know what the animal was eating, what it was fed. And a lot of times I know that the food I'm eating, it came from an animal that got to enjoy a life out in the wild, as opposed to most of the food that our society eats comes from the grocery store, where that animal was probably raised on a farm that was meant for nothing more than being food one day.
It sounds like you're a jack of all trades, like you have so many skills. But this is a fun one. What are the top 5 items that you can't live without?
Oh man, so that's a tough one there. Probably a Lord of the Rings book, probably with the trilogy there. My grill, because with hunting and having as much food as say a deer or other animals can provide, I do a lot of grilling with that. Probably my phone camera is the one I use the most often. Capturing a lot of my wife and I's adventures out in nature. My phone, begrudgingly, because as much as I love to kind of be away from technology, it's still something that's tough to live without. And same goes probably for computer. Hard to code without a computer, right?
Yeah, definitely. So if you wouldn't be living here in America, where else would you like to live and why?
I definitely love America, love living here. So, some people think about, cool places to see or visit when they think about that question. My mind always goes to my stomach. Where can I find the best food? So probably maybe somewhere in Central America or South America.
It's always nice to travel because it's like a great breath of fresh air whenever you get to experience other cultures and other ways of life. So do you have any quote or saying that inspires you the most?
Oh, absolutely. So I think from this one, I always go back to my love of J.R.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings series. I'm sure maybe you've heard the quote before, not all those who wander are lost.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me there, because like I said, my wife and I love to travel, go around, see different places. So just that constant wandering, we find really fulfilling, and seeing all the things this world has to offer. And then I guess the other one I'd go with is, all that is gold does not glitter. So some of our things that we hold value to in life don't always have to be shiny or hold value to others.
So what life lessons do you have in mind that you want your students to learn if they want to, succeed in life?
You may not always be in control of the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort that you put into your life. And that may not always guarantee the things that you're wanting out of life, but I can promise that it will give you a heck of a lot better life than what you would have without a hard work ethic. So I think just know yourself, be willing to work hard, and figure out what you want to do in life there, because college might be the route for you, but college might not be the route for you. It's all about the effort that you put into it and making good decisions once you've made either of those decisions, and being able to live with it.
That's a really great piece of advice. So now that we're at the end of the interview, let's take a look at the future. What do you think the world will be like 10 years from now from a technological standpoint?
Obviously, technology is going to be more ingrained in our society, because that's the reality of what we're already kind of witnessing year after year. Definitely, I think that the self-driving cars will be a bigger thing. We're already starting to see that.
One thing I think is that with the pandemic, we've sort of moved the focus from climate change to that, but I do really think that we're gonna need to do our very, very best to really start saving the world more and more, because the next few decades are really, really gonna be crucial, and saving our planet and keeping it as green and great as it is. So that's one of the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as technology advances, through market innovations and things like that, we already see that with, I guess, the amount of carbon that different devices put off constantly going down. And even if we still are using fossil fuels by that point, I've even seen in my lifetime the miles per gallon that cars can get constantly going up, meaning they're using less, fuel, but getting more production out of it. So, even if that is a reduction there, we've seen a significant innovations on that front as well.
That's a really good point. So thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I think your answers were all great and funny and smart and everything. So it was a pleasure having you on here.
Hey, well, I really appreciate you having me on, Dorian. This was a fun experience, and I really appreciate all the work you do here for Glasgow.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on and learning about your personal life. And thanks so much to all of you guys for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed, make sure to vote down below in the comments on the next teacher we should interview. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye!